Hello Internet! The time has finally come for a 1590 Founders Edition to come and land its ugly ass on my bench so that we can give it a professional GPU repair opinion on its design. First and foremost, we have to figure out how to take this thing apart. It's been a while since I've seen what's his face video on trying to figure out how to take this thing apart. Now, before I started, or rather finished disassembling this thing, a question popped into my mind. Why am I even doing this? I have no idea. Instead of being stupid, let's go ahead and power the board and see if it actually works. And maybe all we need is, nope, it's got no power. Well, that's because the riser's not plugged in. Plug the riser in, see what the power supply does. And the power supply says we're pulling about 3 amps. I think that's working 5090. So let's go ahead and plug this thing into the motherboard. See if we get it to post. And if it does, then we're gonna run some tests and see if it crashes. So that way we don't have to waste our precious time fixing what's not broken to begin with. Something about the offset of the card that prevents me from using my existing setup. Almost as if all of the ports are shifted, preventing me from plugging in the connector into the board. That's kind of funny. So if we were to compare two boards side by side, see how close the ports are to the bottom of the card and how much further away they are in here, and they're also flipped. Weird, I must say. None of the 5090s I've seen before have had this problem. So I guess we'll just use the display port instead of HDMI, because that's gonna be a little bit easier to access. Let's power the board and see what happens. We got one beep and the card is posting as far as I can tell. Yep, there it is. Very interesting. So I'm gonna go ahead and let this thing load, and if everything checks out, then I was just wasting your time. Alright, so I've rebooted after the drivers had been successfully installed. Things looked kind of weird. Most of the monitor was showing on the left upper corner, most of the content, but rebooted and it worked fine. Who knows? Probably driver issues. That's still a relatively new thing. Let's go ahead and, I don't think that we can, well, we can, because we are running Afterburner Beta, so it should work with the 5090. Unknown rail 10, and we are frozen. Nope, still going. Yep, we are kind of freezing. Sort of. The system is not very stable, as you can tell by the mouse. How not smooth. It just kind of jumps around. That could potentially be an issue, and we're running an X8 for whatever reason. So that could be an issue related to the data lines, so everything is kind of glitchy. So let's run the firmware, and yeah, that's what firmware is doing. It's just doing a bunch of garbage. Okay, let's turn this off and use a proper motherboard for this. Okay, here we are. Completely different motherboard. Very similar setup, if not identical. Let's see how this thing behaves in here. A little bit more stable. It says that we're running in PCI Express 4. Why are we running in X4? On the other motherboard we were running an X8. In here we're running an X4. That's strange. So customer said that the card was damaged by UPS. I don't really see damage anywhere. I'm guessing it was tumbled somewhere, potentially. But I don't see any damage. But what I do suspect is that we have some issues with connections. That explains why we have intermittent. We had differences between the old motherboard and the new motherboard, where the old one was running at X8 and the new one is only at X4. And as you can see here, we're missing a lot of connections with the core on both sides, front and back. So my guess is that the little board inside with the flex cable that's connected to the actual main board of the GPU is simply disconnected. Let's take this thing apart and have a look around, see if we can fix this. So, my guess is that the problem is originating between this little board And the connector, NVIDIA decided to disconnect the main board from the PCI Express slot itself, which one might argue is the greatest solution, preventing the board from flexing to a point where it would create cracks under the core, or rip pads and whatnot, and instead have this semi-detached board take the blow, and with a small chance of it getting disconnected from the main board, you might lose several data lines, but it will still work. Or the worst case scenario, it won't work and you'll just have to reattach it together. Let's have a look under a microscope and see what we can gather from this connector and figure out whether it's a repairable card or not. And okay, we now see the underlying issue. And the issue is that connector is broken. I see pins that are bent. Many pins are bent. Nothing here. Most of them are on this end. We could probably fix that. What about the connector itself? Looks kind of okay. So while this end looks okay, this end here looks very bad, and most likely it's damaged on a board level. And in order to fix this properly, I would need this connector somewhere, because there's too many pins. You can't really see it. Let me go and zoom in a little bit closer so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. See how some of these pins, let me get you a lined up shot here, how some of these pins are sort of twisted, and that creates the misalignment problem, like this pin here. Let me see if I can get to that pin. This pin here is misaligned, this pin here misaligned. So we basically have a whole bunch of misaligned pins, and one way to fix this would probably be get those pins twisted back, get them realigned. Hopefully that would work, but ultimately it's kind of really hard to say whether that's going to hold up or not. It is so thin in here, I can barely get that razor blade inside. So I want to get it in between the plastic and the pin, so I can apply, so I can push it in the opposite direction, effectively straightening it out. There's so little room. I mean, that razor blade is so tiny. It shaves off the gold plating as I touch the pin. And even with that, it's nearly impossible to get it in. So I have to push the pin out of the way, shove that thing in there, like this, and then push the pin the opposite direction. And I think that kind of does the trick. Just a few more pins. I'm sure over time I'll probably come up with a little better idea, or maybe I will have a differently sharpened knife, so that way it's a little bit more manageable. But this is starting to look okay. I think there was at least one more, this guy here, that needed help badly. Right there. Alright, let's give it a try and see just how much more difficult this card is going to be in terms of repairability. Let's go ahead and see if all of the LEDs will light up this time. It'll be very difficult to plug this thing in. Let's see if all the lights... Nope, we still got like half the lights are still missing. And I'm guessing it's probably because of the GPU die detached from the board. So let's go ahead and squeeze the core. This is so sketchy I can't even... See, the thing is I don't even know if that's working or not. Let's look at this board again from the side view and see maybe it's just detached from the board. It's a little bit shifted and it is not passed through. It is definitely some sort of an SMD, and it could have micro cracks underneath it, and we won't even know. And I don't even know if the problem is at the connector level or it's somewhere else. It looks like, judging by the LEDs kind of jumping all over, it looks like it could be the connector, but it could also be the GPU, because I can't really press on the GPU without by any meaningful way. It's just a guess. It looks like the problem is between this stupid board here and the connector, but it's like impossible to verify this, and the margin for error is so low in here. This is just absurd. All right, let's continue on. Alright, so I have no other option but to reball the core so that I can at the very least eliminate the problem with this questionable state connector. That way I know for sure that the problem is the connector and not under the core. But the other thing I like to note is that this rubber ring around the middle of the core made a removal of liquid metal extremely difficult. So I guess this and that, every little bit of this card is just designed to be extremely difficult. And with every step of the way, starting from the assembly, it's just more and more difficult and less repairable. So basically, if you're the NVIDIA 5090 Founders Edition owner, I am deeply sorry for your future loss, because once this thing's broken, good luck finding someone who will be able to get it fixed. If I knew how difficult this would have been, I would have probably increased the price for this repair. But that won't be fair. We're playing fair in here, so I'm gonna do my best to get this thing to work. Hopefully nothing goes wrong, and because I do not want anything to go wrong today. So let's get this thing on their way and see what happens. Oh, and I almost forgot to note that this is a proprietary connector. Once this connector melts, goodbye your graphics card, because you're going to need a donor board, because that connector is not going to be available anywhere for sale other than the donor board itself. So that's going to be super expensive. Good luck. Alright, so the reball is done, and looks like all of the LEDs are lighting up. So that means the problem was not only at the connector level, but also under the core. So right now, my only fear is that I may have accidentally shorted something on that board, like a memory chip. I don't know which one, so I ended up reballing one of the chips. But we're gonna see. Hopefully nothing shorted under the core, because that was very difficult to get that core reballed. It is massive. So let's see, what kind of readings are we gonna get on memory? 3.2. Well, it's rising a little bit as it cools down, but I still don't know. I also don't know what happened to the resistors or the capacitors that were supposed to be in this area here. I don't know if they were supposed to be there or not. I can probably look at the photo and see if they were. So, are we getting anything? Nope, we got nothing in here, so that's good. That's good. Perfect. I suppose we can glue this rubber pad back onto the core, assuming that we didn't short anything under the core. Otherwise we're gonna have to peel it off again. The biggest challenge now would be to power the board, see what it actually does. So unfortunately I'm gonna have to somehow, somewhat put it together, which is very upsetting, to say the least. Or maybe I can rig something up, though even if I will, I'm not going to be able to get any kind of display out without this thing connected. So if I wanted to get any kind of display out, I would have to get this thing removed from the cooler in order to get an input, or output rather. So what can I possibly do in this situation? I'm guessing I'm just going to put it on the stand. Let's see if the board looks healthy when it's powered. And it's doing absolutely nothing. It could be that something got damaged with the heat cycle on the back of the board. Let's see. Still nothing. Alright, so I think I figured out all the voltages. So we got PEX 5, 1.2, 3.3, and then we got 1.8 in the back. So we have all the voltages, but we got nothing on the core, which would follow next. And we would have obviously nothing on memory or PEX. Right, so I tried and I tried and I tried, and what ends up happening every single time is that the core ends up getting short because of the size of the PCB, and unfortunately I do not have proper equipment, whatever the proper equipment would be, to evenly heat the whole surface so that I could lift the core and put it back down and everything would remain flat. So I have no other choice but to take this Zotac as a donor board, and a little bit unfortunate, but it is what it is. I'm actually thinking about jerry rigging some kind of a reflow oven. That might come in handy for this particular case, just for the Founders Editions 5090s, but I don't know, we'll see. Alright, so here's my plan. I'm gonna use 0.5 around the perimeter, and I'm isolated the middle, and in the middle I will use 0.4 because I know the board is kind of bulging out from the middle, so I'm guessing that's where all the shorting out is happening, but we'll see. Now the trick here is to remove all that tape and dump all the solder balls on top of already existing balls so that they fill the rest of the holes here. I haven't done this before, so I don't know how that's gonna work. I don't even know if it's gonna work at all. For all I know, it might not even work at all, but I think it's worth a shot. This is gonna be my final attempt. So if this doesn't work, then I will not be trying anything else. I will just go straight into a different board. And I think that should be it. Anyway, who cares? Finally, no more short on the core. Looks like my trick worked, but will the card power on? We're pulling 2-3 amps. I don't know. Does that mean it's working? No idea. Given the circumstances and how many times I had to reball this thing, I would be surprised that it would actually work after all this butchering. But we'll see. Right now, what I need is I need to somehow situate this thing so that it can kind of stand where I want it to stand. I absolutely hate the way this is set up. Will it actually work? Alright, so here, well, I don't have the adapter to get the display out of the card, so we're just gonna go into mods and see if the card is detected. Kinda makes me wonder if we can run mods on this old motherboard for a 50 series card. I doubt it, but who knows, we'll try. Let's try running mods, see what it does. It probably won't detect it, I don't know. Yep, so it's not detecting it, so let's wait a second. Yeah, we don't care. Quit and lspci, and we have our device. Okay, that's good. Let's just go ahead and reboot. See if the operating system will give us some kind of a confirmation that the device is actually working. That way we don't have to completely put it together in order to get the display ribbon connected to the board. I was kind of hoping this wouldn't be fixed so that I would transfer the core and memory over to a different board. That way I can harvest all that nonsense and rig something up for repair to make it easier next time. So we're just gonna wait and hopefully the driver will pick up. Okay, there we go. Now that doesn't mean it's actually working, even though it says it's working. We have to fire up the GPU-Z to see if it actually does work. Yep, it's working. So we have the sensors, we have all the information about the memory, so I can confidently say we have a fix. But before I do the victory dance, I still want to do something else, just to make sure that we're not going to look foolish at the very end of the day. And basically what I'm trying to say is I need to make sure that the data connections are all fixed. Yep, looks like we got all the LEDs lit. I guess we have a fix after all. So alright, so here are my final thoughts on this card. Extremely over-engineered. Lots of screws everywhere, magnetic X bracket here on the top. I mean, it all looks kind of beautiful from the engineering standpoint, though I'm not an engineer. But it's just too many points of failure, if you ask me, and it's just... I do not think that this is going to be the best 5090 that the money can buy. I think the best 5090 that the money can buy would be none other than Asus Austral or Zotac. Zotac's pretty good too. I mean, if you look at the board of Zotac, we got big, thick fuses here protecting the board. All of a sudden, Zotac is making great 5090s. But the NVIDIA, since they started doing their Founders Edition cards, hadn't been nothing but a headache in terms of repair and whatnot. Because even if something breaks, something simple on the board, like a broken component or whatever, good luck finding a board view or any kind of schematics that would help you identify the component or the value of that component or find where the signals go. Yeah, so it's best to stick to something traditional. So in any case, we'll plug this thing in, run some tests, and that will be it. Goodbye.